Friends, Americans, countrymen, welcome to another presentation by Patrick Henry, and this particular presentation is going to center around radiation in the Pacific, specifically radiation sourced from Fukushima, the Fukushima multiple meltdown disaster. And first, what I want to do is kind of go back in time and look at some Freedom of Information documents pertaining to Fukushima from the NRC, Nuclear Regulatory Commission. And let's have a look at some evidence I found when I went and began to search by a keyword C, and I found quite a number of references to where they had been dumping radioactive water into the ocean. So the admission is right here for those trolls and shills who are out there saying, no, there's no radiation in the ocean. No, it didn't go into the water. Look, here's the straight up admission I'm about to show you right now so we can dismiss those claims right now, right off the bat, to those who say, hey, there's nothing to worry about. No radiation in the water, no radiation in the Pacific. I'm going to show you evidence in this presentation to the contrary. Okay, in this first screen capture, I underlined the date. I thought it was important that I show you the sequence of dates. This is back in 2011, and this is Tuesday, March 29th. And this is from an update. And within this update, you can read a number of bulletins, and the one I highlighted and I underlined part from the second one. And the first one that I boxed in reads, Unit 2 trenches outside of turbine building filled with contaminated water. Trenches used for electrical or piping runs. Overflow of trenches may cause release to the ground/sea. There's that keyword I'm hunting for, C. Dose rates measured at 100 rem per hour. Wow, that's amazing. Okay, and also to be noted, I thought it was interesting, plutonium in soil. You don't see that a lot in these documents. So when I see plutonium, or the one time I found MOX in there, it's pretty significant to me, and a significant admission. So plutonium in soil, that's also important. If they're hosing these things down with these concrete pumper trucks or riot water cannons or Bechtel system or whatever it is, that's just rinsing down, washing over everything. Where is it going? Where is that going? Well, we have evidence right here that overflows into trenches, overflows into reservoirs, and that is either leaks into the ocean or is directly pumped into, purposefully released into the ocean, as we will see in these documents. Okay, we're looking at this particular analysis that they have done. And if you look at this screen capture here, you see the nuclide analysis result for seawater samples at 330 meters south from the discharge point of units 1 through 4. And the one down beneath has the sampling from 30 meters north from units 5 and 6, which we know sustained a lot less damage than the other 4 units. And looking at the top chart, you can see the nuclide, iodine, or cesium, and you look in the sample concentration, the ratio, and the guideline limit. Again, this is evidence that they're testing the seawater and they are finding nuclide in the seawater. This next one, nuclide analysis result for seawater samples at Unit 2 screen. Very similar to the others, and just shows you again they're sampling in the seawater and they are getting positive hits back for radioactive substances in the water. Here's another one, a nuclide analysis result for seawater samples at 15 kilometers offshore points and a date 4/26. Very similar to the other charts. Again, what's important here, iodine, cesium, testing offshore 15 kilometers, and they're having positive results for radioactive nuclides in the seawater. Okay, here's one from April 3, Sunday, 1700 hours. Fukushima Daiichi Daily Update. Number 1, major evolutions, and I have highlighted, boxed in what I thought was of major importance here. It says, on April 2nd, high-level contaminated water was found flowing out from a crack of a pit near the intake facility of Unit 2 into the sea. TEPCO tried temporary concrete pouring into the crack. However, concrete had not been solidified due to large amount of water in the pit. They are trying to dig a hole at the upstream side and inject high polymer. Now at the bottom it also says, to be noted, 79.4 becquerels per liter of iodine 131 was detected from the seawater sample taken 3/30 at 40 kilometers south of Fukushima Daiichi site. it is 2 times of the reference level. So right at the very top, it's directly there, an admission, high level contaminated water found flowing out from a crack in a pit into the sea. Whether it's intentional or unintentional, we're looking at evidence that radioactive water indeed was either dumped or accidentally leaked or went into the ocean by whatever means. Okay, here's a screen capture from the NRC FOIA documents. It says from Sunday, April 10th, 2011, and I boxed and read the important section that says TEPCO has confirmed that discharge of low-level radioactive water in the waste processing facility of Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant into the sea was finished at 1740 today. Total amount of low-level radioactive water discharged from the plant is about 10,390 tons, and total radioactivity released through the discharge is about 150 billion becquerels. Also, beneath that it says TEPCO is going to issue a press release on this matter soon. I've got a clip on that coming up next. But if you look at this one again, admission that this water, discharge of low-level radioactive water into the ocean. And here's what I found on that press release, the best bit of information I could find. It'll give a date, April 29th, which if you look at the previous one, Sunday 10th, okay, well, we're looking a couple weeks after that. And here is their press release, and this is the plethora of information they're willing to give, or at least I can find in reference to this press release. It says on April 29th, 2011, we started sampling survey of the seawater at 5 points in the 3-kilometer offshore area of Ibaraki Prefecture. Today we have conducted nuclide analysis of radioactive materials in the water sampled on April 29. We have reported the result of the analysis to NISA and the government of Ibaraki Prefecture as per attached. So we don't get a lot of information, just says analysis of radioactive materials in the water sampled. So it says they did sample radioactive materials, but the press release, or at least what we get out of the FOIA documents, doesn't really tell us a whole lot. And again, that's probably pretty close to what the real whatever came out in the newspaper on the news that night for Japan. I was like we all know about TEPCO. Anything that it's always downplayed, or it's totally they're just totally lying about it and not telling you something. A lot of dishonesty, a lot of deception, a lot of covering up, and a lot of lies coming both not just from TEPCO but from our government as well on this whole issue. Okay, this next screen capture is pretty amazing. It says marine monitoring. TEPCO is conducting a program for seawater surface sampling at a number of nearshore and offshore monitoring locations. Up until April 3, a general decreasing trend was observed at the sampling points TEPCO 1 to TEPCO 4. After the discharge of contaminated water on April 4, a temporary increase has been reported. As of April 12, no new data for TEPCO 1 through 10 sampling points have been reported. So there you go. Discharge into the ocean, and they're testing for it, and they're finding it there. They're finding an increase. Okay, the next screen capture says radioactive materials monitoring, density of iodine 131 in the sea. Where are they monitoring? In the sea. What are they monitoring for? Fission products. Iodine 131, and you can, on the left of this particular chart, you can see the sampling location, seacoast or offshore, and it gives you the particular distance, the date and the time, the density, and the ratio to criteria. 43 times, 40 times on some of these. So it's quite elevated, we can see. Okay, the next screen capture I have says discharge of low-level radioactive accumulated water in Central Waste Treatment Facility and Units 5 and 6 to the sea. Central Waste Disposal Facility, it says in parentheses, and then it says we had discharged approximately 9,070 tons of water from the discharge canal of Units 1 to 4 from April 4th to April 10th. We're investigating and confirming the situation. Subdrain of Unit 5 and 6. From April 4th, we started the discharge from the water discharge canal of Units 5 and 6, and at 1852, April 9, we completed about 1,323 tons. Okay, there's more again admission right there that's being discharged and into the sea. Where is it going? Into the ocean, the Pacific Ocean. Okay, this next screen capture just boxed in the date because the first couple pages wasn't really relevant, and then it went into Again, evidence that it's radioactive water is being discharged into the Pacific Ocean. But note, April 15th, 800 hours. And the next screen capture was the relevant section. I boxed in 3 areas where one says discharging water in subdrain of Unit 5 to the sea, 950 meters cubed, for April 4th, 2100 to 8 April, 1214. Those are the time hours, I guess, 2100 hours, 1214 hours. To the right of that, it says discharging water in subdrain of Unit 6 to the sea, 372.6 meters cubed, 4 April 2100 to 9 April 1852. So this is taking place over a number of days. And to the right of that, again, draining water, concentrated RW to the sea with a directional arrow pointing towards the sea, 9,070 meters cubed, from 4 April 1903 hours to 10 April 1740 hours. So it's ongoing process, and quite a bit of concentrated radioactive water is being discharged into the ocean. Here's the absolute proof of it. Okay, next screen capture. Again, it's important to note the date, April 8. I just want to show you this is back in 2011. This is late March, early April, what we're looking, these analysis we're looking at here. And this particular one is a TEPCO summary. Again, you take it with a grain of salt because TEPCO's been less than honest time and time again. What was to note on this particular screen capture we're looking at now that I've boxed in red, I'll read you the bullets. It says, the discharge of radioactive water from the rad waste facility to the sea continues and will be completed this evening. Drainage of the Units 5 and 6 underground groundwater pits will be completed on Saturday. The next bulletin says, the discharge of radioactive water from the rad waste facility to the sea continues and will be completed this evening. Following completion of pumping, workers will check the rad waste facility for cracks that might have been caused by the earthquake. And the last bulletin says the release of slightly contaminated water from Units 5 and 6 groundwater pits to the sea will be completed on Saturday. Well, that's an intentional release. A discharge, could take it either way, but I see the discharges in here, evidence I see there, an intentional discharges, some of these, and we'll explain why they have to do that, because of their temporary solution, the best solution they can come up with to try to stabilize the situation. In the long run, it's not going to be effective. We're all going to have this corium melt all the way down. Spent fuel pool number 4 we know was dry for quite some time. I suspect that also blob melted down. There's a sublimation through the concrete into the Taurus screen capture I have difficult loading online for people to look at, and it's indicative. It indicates that they knew there was going to be a corium blob as well from all those bundles in number 4 that would melt down, sublimate through the concrete. And where does it end up? It melts through the Taurus. Does it stop in the Taurus? No, continues to melt down beneath. So right here you see evidence of discharge of radioactive water, and also we have to look at the language on this as well. It's very important. At the bottom it says the release of slightly contaminated water. At the top it says the discharge of radioactive water. So let's be sure there's a difference in that between the slightly and the radioactive. And in some cases it says, I think it said a couple times, or highly radioactive water is being concentrated, I guess is the word being used, radioactive water. So this terminology is important too. We're getting varying levels of radioactive water being discharged, being released, or leaking into the Pacific. Okay, I'm now going to read from the Freedom of Information Act documents, where these are some phone conversations between some of the NRC guys. And I'll read you the box section, although that's pertaining to something else. What's important on these two here is the amount of water they're going to be dumping onto these damaged, critically damaged, inoperably, irreparably, unsavably damaged units 1, 2, and 3, and indeed unit number 4 as well, which we know was not actively, the plant was not running at the time, but everything had been offloaded upstairs to the spent fuel pool, which from the documents we know they knew it was dry and didn't have water for quite some time. How long? Long enough to have a absolute meltdown, absolutely, and sublimate through the concrete and go on down into the ground. Yes. Now let me read from the screen capture. Brian Sharon says, and apparently has a